Facebook must be broken up, according to the US government, and actually well reported on by CNN. So it looks like the stars have aligned and something really interesting is happening here. And it's not just that this is essentially a full frontal assault from the US government against Facebook and Silicon Valley, because there's another 11 lawsuits launched by the government against Google back in October. These things take an awfully long time to do, though, so don't expect any significant results in the near future, and there's no guarantee that the results will turn out in the favor of the general public and not in the favor of Silicon Valley. But CNN reported here, they say dozens, but I believe it's 48 states and districts, as well as the federal government, have sued Facebook on Wednesday, so yesterday, in twin antitrust lawsuits alleging that the social media giant abused its dominance in the digital marketplace and engaged in anti-competitive behavior. Well, I'm not going to question that. The Federal Trade Commission is seeking a permanent injunction on federal court that could, among other things, require the company to divest assets, including Instagram and WhatsApp, effectively breaking up Facebook as we know it. The states are also calling for the company to be broken up if necessary. As Ian Connor, the director of the FTC's Bureau of Competition, says, personal social networking is central to the lives of millions of Americans. Facebook's actions to entrench and maintain its monopoly to deny consumers of the benefits of competition. Our aim is to roll back Facebook's anti-competitive conduct and restore competition so that innovation and competition can thrive. According to the suit, Facebook's alleged misconduct has resulted in customers being harmed. Internet users have fewer choices among social media platforms and poorer experiences, the complaint said, while the tech industry has suffered from reduced investment in potentially competing services. In another critical allegation, state officials say that Facebook opens its platform to third-party developers to draw them into the company's orbit, then cut off their access to Facebook services once Facebook perceived them to be a competitive threat. I think this is a really interesting way of approaching this. And what I find also interesting is that this is not just a problem for third-party app developers. This is also a free speech problem, of course, for those people that must not be named on Facebook services. They were also drawn in by the promise of, well, here's an open platform that anyone can sign up to, anyone can use, anyone can create a page, anyone can start talking about the subjects that they want, until that Facebook finds that there is some kind of competitive threat, not necessarily in a business sense, but it seems in an ideological sense. And you may have seen, and maybe I'll see if I can get the clip for the video of this in editing. Mark Zuckerberg, a leaked section of a Zoom call that Mark Zuckerberg had to a bunch of other Facebook executives, essentially trying to talk them down from their radical positions on censorship, explaining that actually the public are kind of far right and don't really share the same very progressive opinions that the people in San Francisco hold, and that possibly that is something that Facebook needs to take into account. But again, effective voices like people like Paul Joseph Watson, people who don't swear, they don't threaten, they don't say anything that is generally classed as bigoted, can be removed from the platform anyway, because it appears that they are effective in challenging progressive narratives. It's not included in this lawsuit, of course, but it's another example, in my opinion, of how Facebook sees competition on its platform and is acting against it. But the response to the allegations here of monopoly from the US government and the 48 states and districts is very, very interesting, because and it's interesting because of the left-wing and progressive political and economic views that Facebook employees generally tend to hold, at least according to Mark Zuckerberg. But let's be honest, no one in their right mind thinks Facebook isn't a hive of radical left-wing opinions. The Facebook response is a very libertarian free market response. They say the most important fact in this case, which the Commission does not mention in its 53-page complaint, is that it cleared these acquisitions years ago. The government now wants a do-over, sending a chilling warning to American business that no sale is ever final. Really, you're being oppressed, are you? You're having things done arbitrarily to you without just appeal. Is that what you're saying? Come on. People and small businesses don't choose to use Facebook's free services and advertising because they have to. They use them because our apps and services deliver the most value. We are going to vigorously defend people's ability to continue making that choice. Well, I'm so glad that the libertarians at Facebook have finally taken over. And now can we have the rest of the people that you censored back on the platform so I can continue to make that choice whether I want to follow them or not? Because what you did by censoring people like Paul Joseph Watson, Tommy Robinson, whoever else, Alex Jones, all of the rest, whether you agree with their opinions or not, whether you support them or not, is what you have said to millions of people that followed them is that there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't have followed this. This is inappropriate for our platform, and you have done something wrong by being engaged with this. And you have silenced, not just silenced those people, those individuals who are talking, but by doing so, you have also deafened millions of your own users from being able to hear what they were saying. Whether you thought it was right or wrong at all is irrelevant because, or so I'm told, Facebook isn't a publisher, it's a platform. So it can get those juicy Section 230 protections. So be a platform, allow people to continue making the choice, and shut up. Unless, of course, you're not actually libertarians, and this is a kind of tactical maneuver that you're doing, which obviously it is. But William Kovacic, a former chairman of the FTC, has rebuffed this completely, saying, look, there's nothing in US merger law that says an agency's decision not to challenge a proposed deal immunizes that deal from future review. And so in response to this, but knowing that this was coming, because it's not like Donald Trump hasn't been banging on about big tech forever, because it's a real problem that we're all banging on about all the time. And with the current state of YouTube, who knows where this ends up going, because I can't say for certain actually, but this is probably, if something significant happens here, Instagram and WhatsApp were purchased in by YouTube in like 2014, and they've become essentially the arbiters of a vast amount of the internet. And when someone is removed from YouTube, they are also removed from Instagram, even though they're meant to ostensibly be separate but co-owned companies. But anyway, Facebook have moved to try and protect themselves from this, and they had done this in advance. As CNN report, it's moved to tightly integrate apps on a technical level, a decision some critics have suggested is a strategy to frustrate any potential breakup. It stepped up its hiring of lawyers with antitrust litigation experience, and the company has fine-tuned its talking points, settling on a narrative that Facebook welcomes regulation, but cracking down too hard could risk giving other countries like China a competitive edge in the fast-moving technology sector. Well, if that happens, then as Trump wanted to bang TikTok, it seems that the US government is prepared to take action in this regard. Now, I realize that there are going to be a lot of actual libertarians who are like, well, I'm not a fan of any of this. You know, the market should decide. And that's true, but I think there's a presupposition that's embedded in that assumption, in that statement. The assumption that is, the public are well informed enough to know that there are alternatives. If they don't, then how can they make that choice? If they can't get access to certain information because the only channels of information that are readily available to them through their social systems and through the media that they consume, etc., are heavily curated by Silicon Valley, and as we can see with YouTube's terms and conditions, can just get updated to after the fact ban certain kinds of content that up until that point were completely legal, completely fine with the terms of service, and are just political, like are not even about bigotry or anything like that, about questions of election results or questions of vaccine safety and things like this. If these kinds of content or videos can be just waxed from the site and just completely erased, then you may not even know that there is something that is an alternative that you have access to. So while I am sympathetic to that position, I think that it is high time for something to be done, because it is genuinely hard to underestimate the amount of the scope of the power of these organizations. Never before in human history has an organization had the kind of monopolistic power that YouTube and Facebook do. Google and Facebook, sorry. It's actually quite terrifying if you think about it, because I mean, Google, for example, own the top two search engines in the world, which are Google and YouTube. And this is the overwhelming share of video content that is served on the internet. That's not happened before. And I think that it is going to have dire consequences for the future. So it is something that you need to think about, I think. And it's something that I think deserves at least just challenge, even if nothing positive from the sort of individual's perspective comes out of it. At least it shows that there are people in the government who are actually paying attention to what are real concerns. But anyway, folks, if you'd like to see more from us, you can go to lotuseats.com. And if you'd like some exclusive content, you can become a premium member. We have an interview with Andy No on there. There's a very personal interview, and it has the tea tasting in it. We are tasting one of the East India Company's finest teas. And if you want to know how that company came back into existence, you can go find out. See you later.